I have started the stream. I'm gonna go to the server, start ping, because this is part of a server. Go and ping some people. Let me see, where are we?
What's the turnout for these usually? Like last time I saw it was like 40 people.
It depends. Sunday ones are usually a bit tamer. These ones we usually have about 20 or so. I think is sort of the like we usually start when it's like 15ish, right? And then 20ish, 20ish is usually what it comes on.
I
Let me
see.
see.
Mostly, what's the demographic? Like mostly just like UBC kids in that family? Kind of
Most of the population is UBC, but a lot of it is actually just in general. We see a lot of people from a whole bunch of places. Like for example,
Oh,
one of the more popular ones for us is just in general like Canadian universities. So we see some stuff from SFU, Victoria, and of course UT, Waterloo. We have a couple of those as well. You have a lot of people
yeah.
who've come in recently that are more like intermediate career, or sometimes like they've got the new grad stuff. They're coming back to see what other people are doing, the next steps, how to get into intermediate role. So we've seen a couple of those people. Recently, let me just pull up my spreadsheet. Oh, let me not use that tab. So recently, we have also had one person from Florida. Don't know what school
Oh,
exactly,
no.
but from Florida. We have one from Texas as well. Couple
Yeah.
from Cali, who have done the mocks as well. So
Cool,
yeah,
cool,
it's
cool.
pretty.
How did they reach you guys? Like for
We're
like
we're
this?
just we're just on Discord. Like a lot of people find us, like they have a newsletter. They're also on LinkedIn, the community. I'm not that active
Yeah.
on the LinkedIn community for those guys, but I'm
Yeah.
like Discord only essentially at this point. Um,
I see. I see.
yeah, but it's
That's
pretty
kind of
chill.
neat. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I said it's pretty neat. Like how it's reaching. Like I
Yeah, yeah,
remember. Okay, it started. It wasn't that long.
yeah. It wasn't that
And
long
like
ago, but actually, well, it was a little while ago. But I don't think they were that like they rebranded the channel from, I think it was like Tech Career Change before. And now they're like Tech Career North. I think they kind of just rebranded a little bit recently. So that might be
right.
part of like a new effort for them to go and advertise. I know they started a
Yeah.
new website as well to kind of for
Interesting.
newsletters and
Yeah.
advertising and whatnot. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in general,
I
it's
feel like they started as like it was like for our like BCS mainly.
it was a lot of it was a lot of BC, it was a lot of BC stuff primarily before, but now it's like everything.
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
this thing?
Nice.
122. I think the rebrand happened like early this year. I think it was like January or something.
Mm,
But I
I
don't
see, I
exactly
see.
remember. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, let me see what's going on Twitch. 15 people. Okay, we can roughly get started here. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's Sunday edition of the Mock and Reviews. It's just me today. Cookie is off. He is enjoying his time doing some other stuff, so I will be doing the mocks and responding in chat the best I can. So just in anticipation, I'll be probably leaving an extra 5 or so minutes between the two sessions. We have one at 5 today that's going to start very soon. We have one at 6 with another guest. So I'll probably have a couple minutes in between just to kind of catch up on chat in case I miss anything. Um, cool. Benny, anything you want to say about yourself before we get started?
No, not really. Just fourth year CS student currently. Interning at EA. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So today's question for the 5 p.m. session, we'll be doing an object-oriented design, right? Um, this is going to be a
Hmm.
question that some people who tuned in yesterday might be familiar with, but I wanted to re-ask it because I think it's an interesting question. So, are you in the CoderPad now, Benny? I see that you are. Let me
Yeah,
turn
I can see it.
on the waiting room. Great. Okay. So let's get started. So I'm going to dictate the problem statement. You're free to take notes down and whatnot, and of course ask for clarifications as you need. Okay, so for today's problem, we're going to be designing a recipe app. Okay, it's like a smart recipe app. All right, and this application has some set of recipes. Okay, and the recipe here in this context I'll define as a set of ingredients as input and an output. Okay, like a single
Mhm.
dish or some item, a single food as an output. Okay, so a set of food
Yeah,
and inputs and one food in the output. So the recipe app has a set of these recipes. Okay, and what makes it
yeah.
smart is that this recipe app is connected to your fridge, which is a smart fridge. Okay, and it's not
Okay.
just a smart. It's like a smart kitchen. So your smart fridge has information about the quantity of ingredients and the ingredients in the fridge and pantry and cupboard and everything. Okay, so for example, your fridge might know that you have two pieces of cheese. It might have one unit of salt. Okay, so just for example, your fridge knows this sort of stuff, and the recipe app is able to communicate with the fridge to know what you have. Okay,
Okay.
so the first problem I want you to solve is I want you to be able to model this app with some classes that you see fit, and use this model to solve to implement a function called, let's call it check, which takes in a recipe,
Yeah.
okay, and it returns true if and only if you have all the required ingredients to produce this recipe.
Okay, got it. Okay, so a couple of questions. So let's say like, just do an example quickly. Let's say you want to make I don't know, say like a meatloaf. And let's say for the recipe you require like sugar and you want, like say like I need 500 milligrams of sugar, but if I have like 400, it should output false. Am I interpreting this right, or
That's right,
is
and
it
we don't
just
have to
true as long as it's all?
no, that's right. So there's a quantity associated with it. Now, for the purpose of this question, we don't need to consider units. We can just have 500 units of sugar, for example, just to make the just so we don't have to focus on any unit conversions.
Okay, cool. And then another edge case I guess I can think of is like, say like, you have another thing called like maybe like meatloaf pie. I might, first need you to make a meatloaf first. Is that possible? So I can actually have to make something else first
Yep, that's possible.
before the. Okay, okay, got it. Cool, right? Um, so let's maybe, okay, so we have from what I'm understanding, just to regurgitate back, we have a recipe app that has a set of recipes and is connected to your fridge. Okay, so, and first thing we're doing right now is being able to check if we have the like ingredients, right? To make any recipe that we desire. So I guess we're passing in, um like, are we categorizing by the name? Like we're just passing in a name of the recipe and want to return like a boolean true false, that sort of
Yeah, you
thing.
can you can make it a name of recipe. So I give you some flexibility on the exact typings you want here. I will also point out that you could also take in an instance of a recipe class if that makes it easier for you.
Okay, got it. Okay, so let's maybe. Okay, sure, sounds good. So let's maybe do a class of recipe here. Um, so one other thing I think we talked about, maybe I'll give it a name and I'll give it a quantity as well.
Cool.
Um,
And just to be clear
Actually,
here, we
this
don't need
might
it.
be
And just another thing, just for time purposes, I don't need to see a full implementation of like constructors and stuff. You can just kind of tell me that this just sets things reasonably. We can, just for, yeah.
sounds good. Okay, I'm just gonna document as I go. So I have an ingredient class. What it is, I'll probably just give it a name and a quantity quickly. And like we agreed upon, it won't have any units, just numbers. So, so I'll just probably use.
And it can be a pseudocode. I don't need to see types. It's fine.
Yeah, sure. Just for my own sake.
Oh
So
yeah,
there's
yeah.
probably
That's cool. That's
a
cool.
yeah, and then this is probably int. So I'll say like, I'll do this quickly. So these basically sets up all the ingredients. And then we have a recipe class. So and inside here, probably mostly the same. Probably have a name of the recipe. Um, so here it'll set up, and then I'll probably one other function we wanted to do is check, right? So it's valid. And then for now, maybe I'll just say like uh, passing in a recipe or something. So
What's an
give
example
me
of
a recipe.
an invalid recipe?
So I guess what I'm thinking is like, you just passing the name, and if I can find it, um, I'm just thinking maybe with a string for now. Like you can give me maybe the name of the recipe, and if I find it in what I have so far, um, I'm thinking of kind of a dictionary to map it. So if you give me like a name of it,
Okay.
I can kind of tell you, okay, does that recipe is that to my knowledge or not inside the recipe class?
That depends on how you implement it.
Yeah. So let's. Yeah, so what I'm kind of thinking right now,
Mm-hmm.
is um, probably need to map the. Let me go backwards. Okay, so it's valid. So yeah, I'll probably need to have a. Let me see here. I was thinking originally like having the name of the recipe as the key for the dictionary, and then inside it I'll probably just um, input like the values would be like what kind of ingredients do I need within each. Could be like a tuple for now maybe. So a set of tuples that has a name of an ingredient and the quantity that I need, something like that.
Okay. So your ingredient also inherently includes a quantity.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I guess yeah, it could just be the value could just be a class of ingredient type, and then I
Okay.
can I can extract what I need from there.
Okay. Okay.
So let me try to do that. So I think I'll say if not for now. I'll say if recipe not in. Oh, within this, probably have a start a dictionary. I'll probably just put from. So I'm just gonna put a default dict of a ingredient class. It'll hold that. Oh, sorry, it's actually should be a list. And then inside here, so what am I doing here? So if the string is not in, I guess, do we want like if we type some recipe that doesn't exist, do we wanna? I guess I'm just gonna assume a return false, because we don't have knowledge of that.
So
Um,
so the recipe. So this. I don't think I just want to clarify what's going on with this valid. So later on in code, right? I will have some recipe. Like, and for example, for this context, we don't need to make our own examples. We can just talk about it. So somewhere in someone
yeah,
else's code, you have some recipe one equals recipe, and you do some stuff here. I don't care. And then you want to do
yeah.
recipe one dot is valid, a different recipe here over here, or are you doing like recipe
Um,
one like this? I'm not sure what like this like what is this supposed to represent? This field here.
sure, okay. Good question. So I guess for now, what I'm doing is like you'll be like recipe of like this will probably like say like meat, right? Like
Okay.
this loaf, something like this.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I can maybe have it just take in as just a class itself, like maybe just a recipe class, and then I can um
Sure.
wait, sorry, no, it wouldn't, no, sorry, yeah. Probably just something like this, and then I'll say like if yeah, I guess inside, so like if self dot name dot in, say that. So like you have your recipe class. Like if this name of the recipe is not inside, then return false for now. So here you can just grab the name from your class. Does that kind of make sense? So say like you
One.
call.
Okay, can you just give me an example use case for is valid? Because I'm a bit confused about this dictionary here. Because this
Yeah,
class initializes its own.
sorry, it should probably have a global. That should be outside. I guess like you just yeah. So self dot recipes is maybe this like what I'm thinking is like is this. dictionary for like that's global to everything,
So it's
to
static.
all of the yeah static. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Static would be like that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And
So
and
I guess
and
that makes something like this.
I think static variables are just at the top level like that. I think that's fine. Okay. And when do we write to this recipes?
Sorry, one more time.
And when do we modify recipes?
Yeah, sorry. So here, when I initiate it, I probably have to add as a recipe of name equals to, and then you probably have a bunch of ingredients too, right? So maybe I'll pass in like I'm thinking right now, probably passing in ingredients, and then
Okay.
I'll within each is a so yeah, I probably have to do some stuff here. So for so this is the looping through ingredient list to be values of the dictionary key. So I'll say like for ingredients in ingredients. I'll just probably create it. So maybe I'll have a um. Let me think about this, and then yeah,
Mm-hmm.
probably just say recipes of the name dot append the ingredient. That way, like it can store every single ingredient into this and then map to the
Okay.
recipe's name
I
like
see.
that.
So recipes is a dictionary that maps a string name to a list of your ingredient classes.
Ingredients. Yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
Okay. And I
some.
think just for so it should be like that. Anyways. Okay. Cool. Okay. I'm happy with
Yeah.
that.
Okay, and then as far as how do I implement this is valid? I think the way I actually need to do that is probably through some kind of like, because I know order matters, right? Like it'll depend on um see how this will work.
Can we just clarify what the goal of this valid method is?
Yeah, it's just to check like, can I make this, right? Given what I have so far. Um,
Should that be in the
oh,
recipe class? We're still missing.
um,
We're still missing one of the parts of the problem, which is modeling our inventory in the refrigerator.
right. Okay, sorry. So, right, because we're connected to the fridge. Okay, got it. Yeah, so I'll probably, what I'm thinking is I'll let me just maybe think of the general idea and then I can go into the implementation. So
Yeah, let's
I'm
think high
thinking
level first. Let's
because
think what classes we'll
yeah,
need.
yeah, okay, sure. So yeah, like you said, we're gonna need we do it here. So a ingredient class, sorry, a inventory class. And then here like it stores all of the different ingredients that we have. Um, so here, let me just see. So probably another just like I'm just thinking another like maybe inventory, just kind of a global that you could add it to, and then you can just keep track of that um, for now. So yeah, just whenever you introduce something, you can probably just add it to this global list. Um,
A global list of what?
of let me try this. Probably global list of ingredients is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And then you can actually like, and then if the yeah, so let me think about this actually. So might have to, because right now you can also have like you could add like tomatoes 100, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can maybe add another tomato 100, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, so probably another thinking another dictionary perhaps. So let's say like inventories is equal to dictionary like this, and then um you want to add an ingredient. So this will be ingredient ingredients, which is a type of ingredient class like this.
Okay.
I'll say name quantity is equal to ingredient name ingredient quantity. And then I'll probably just say inventories of name plus equal the quantity like this. So if I should probably do inventory inventories. So yeah, whenever if you have a repeated ingredient, I can just add the quantity.
This is
And
this is a constructor you're taking in one ingredient.
let me think. So whenever I initiate, actually, I probably don't need. I can probably have a adder function here. So probably like add ingredient, something like this. Maybe have it here. That's
Okay.
what I'm thinking.
Okay.
So then you can like add it. Yeah, for the constructor itself, I don't think you actually need anything. Um, so maybe I don't even know what. Can we have an empty one? That's actually like, can I
Yeah.
just like do something like this?
Yeah, you could.
So let's do that for now. Let's go back and think. Um, might need to implement later. But here, yeah, is what I said. So inventories of the. Yeah, let me just do the name and the quantity, like I said. And add this to it like this.
Okay.
And then I'm assuming that like, I can do like ingredient of a negative number as well. So whenever I want to decrease, I can just put a negative to the quantity. That's how I'm thinking of.
What if it
So I'll
becomes
probably
negative? Does it matter if the does that matter? Like the total number becomes
no, I'm
negative?
just saying I think like instead of making another like decreased ingredient,
Mm-hmm.
like, this could work both ways.
Yeah, but what if, for example,
And
you had, in your case, you had tomato 10 and you do minus 100?
yeah, so I'll probably need to do a check. That's where it's kind of going next.
Okay.
Like probably have to do it here. So if I grab the name and the quantity, probably have to check here. So if name in inventory dot inventories. So and the quantity is so this would be like a negative number. So let's say like quantity plus the current quantity less than zero, right? Um, guess what do we want to do this? Maybe just raise an error for now.
Okay.
Raise, I'll just say, yeah, error of like not enough quantity to decrease, something like this. Um, that won't actually let
Okay.
you do that. And then
Okay.
I guess that, yeah, I'm
Let's.
thinking, let's say you have 10 and I want to decrease 50. Do we just want to, deplete what we have so far? Um,
That depends on the
and
reason
just,
we're trying to deplete 50. But
yeah,
for now,
yeah.
this is
So
a
I
fine.
guess,
We can throw the error. That's not a big deal for now. I
yeah,
wanted to
so,
model the one thing that's still missing, which is the actual application. Right? We actually have an application, like a recipe application. So let's make a class
uh,
for that as well.
sure. So let's do
This is the
just
actual class
probably,
the user will be interacting with.
I see. Probably just call it app then for now.
Yep, that's fine.
Um, then let me just think. So this is, wait, can you just clarify? So this is where the user will like, um, right, okay. I'm guessing this is like a centralized class, right? That the user will interact everything with.
So this is a class that will have the API that the user will use.
Okay, okay. So inside it, you'll probably have a central like inventory. Like, do we? Guess how does the user interact with it? Could I maybe add a existing inventory, or kind of like is that allowed
Yeah, you
for
can do that.
maybe I
You can
start
request
with
the user, connect their fridge when they open the app or when they first initialize it. That's not a big deal. You can make an assumption there
sure,
if you
sure,
need.
sure, sure, sure. Okay, so I'll probably have a existing inventory, and then I'll probably have a list of recipes that you could add in initially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so probably I'm thinking, yeah, like an inventory. This is the class of inventory, and I'll probably default this to an empty like this. And then let me see, what else do I need? Okay, so let me see, inventory as well as, yeah, like you can probably have I'm thinking like a list of recipes that you can create.
Okay.
But this would be let me see, how am I gonna interact with this? Um, let me just see. So self dot inventory, I'll say is the inventory class, and then self dot recipes is the recipes that you have. Then I'll probably default this as well, something like this. Um, and then as far as actually interacting with it, I guess,
This is where
like
we
the
want to
users will
have our
do all
check
the,
method.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, um, like this is where the user will do all the communications, right?
That's
So,
right.
I wanna add recipe, for example.
We can skip all of the
Uh,
unnecessary adders and getters. We can assume that those are all correct. Let's implement check.
okay, so this is where I do that check, and it might have some kind of recipe, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is a recipe that I want. Check if I have the um, available or not. Okay. Um, let's see how I would do this. Um, so what I'm kind of thinking is like I'm thinking of a relationship. Like for example, like one of the edge cases we talked about, like you need to like there's something. Okay, so how do I want to do this? So let's maybe, yeah, let's maybe just do this. So for now, I'm assuming that we have this um inventories that has everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll just, in each recipe I have a set of ingredients. Okay, so I'll say ingredient, I'll say name, and the ingredients is equal to recipe dot name and recipe dot ingredients. Then from this, because I in my inventory,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, this should have been, um, let me see how I want this to work. Yeah, so this is either so I'm exist sorry, so right now I have an existing. Okay, so say for ingredients, I in each ingredient I have a name and a quantity. Right, so if yeah, just put it here. So name quantity. And I'll say if name is not in our current inventory, or the quantity is less than, um, sorry, or the self dot inventory of the name, which is, so this gives the quantity of like our current inventory's quantity.
Okay.
And if that's not, if that's less than the quantity, I'll probably just return false. So I have all these ingredients available in my class.
Mm-hmm.
If any of them are not in my dictionary, so the way, so the keys are not there, I know I'm missing that ingredient. Or if my current ingredient amount is too little,
Mm-hmm.
I'll return false for if it's valid. Then by the time I'm done, I can just, um, if I get here, we kind of want, this is just checking, right? So we're actually not decreasing it
Yeah,
yet.
we're
So
not
yeah, I'll
decreasing
just
anything.
return a true for now. But there is probably use cases later, that will probably implement that, we'll be able to kind of add and subtract recipes as we go,
Yeah.
the amount. Yeah.
Can we write a basic unit test for this check method? It doesn't need to be valid Python. I just want to see an example input and state. So
So I can say like
it
app
doesn't
is,
need to be valid Python. I want to see something like this. Check recipe equals. I'll give you an example. Okay, so we have pasta. So the name is pasta. Okay, and the ingredient list includes noodles, one, for example, and tomato sauce, one. Okay, tell me, and here tell me what the inventory is. Right. So tell me what that is, and tell me what this should return. True or false.
So in the inventory, I'm assuming that like it's everything that we've put in so far. So like we'll have a function here that allows you to maybe add, like the adder method, like that will allow you to keep adding the inventory and the amount. Sorry, all the quantities and stuff into your existing inventory. So this inventory is the class's inventory itself. Um,
The
Probably
classes inventory. Yeah.
this outside, actually, something like this. Oh,
And this inventory is a dictionary type.
yeah. It will have like, every, like the key would be like the name of the ingredient, and then the quantity will be like how much it has. So this refers to like the static inventory. And then
Sorry, what this refers to which static dictionary? Do you mean the one in the app, like the one you just made here?
yeah, because like each, yeah, like if you start an app, I'm
Uh
guessing
huh.
there's a central inventory, right, where we hold everything.
There's an inventory per app.
Oh, sorry. Okay, well, let me, yeah, that, oh god, like this. And then once you, yeah, sorry. So once you go here, the inventory, like this is an inventory class in itself. So it'll come here, which will basically it'll store all of the ingredients with this amount. So that's kind of what I'm passing in. And then it'll loop through all of these ingredients one by one, and then to look for how, like if it has enough quantity for each of the ingredients. And then
Can
in
you
the end, it
finish
will
unit test?
return. Sorry, go ahead.
Can you finish mocking up the unit test and tell me if your given example should be true or false?
Yeah, so right now, like since we're assuming like it's not, like nothing's been put in so far.
We can assume that anything
Um,
you want has been put in. I don't care about the real state of the Python app. I just want to walk through some logical unit test here.
sure. So like let's say our inventory right now,
Okay.
has a bunch of stuff. Let's say it has like noodles of like two,
Mm-hmm.
just that. So then it'll walk through here. You'll see that the name, so the key is present, and then it'll
Mm-hmm.
check for the quantity, and it is bigger than that. So it'll pass through here, and then but in the next loop, since it doesn't have tomato sauce, um, it will output false. So in this case, when I'm at this state, I'm gonna return false for this um, unit test that we're doing right now.
And
Versus,
what's okay? Yeah.
yeah, and in another
There's still,
scenario.
so keep in mind there's still one state that is missing from this input, right? Which is the recipe state.
Sorry, what do you mean for so check?
Yeah, so check takes in a
Recipe.
recipe as an input. That's this recipe over here, right?
Yeah,
You have an inventory that's part of your app state,
yeah.
and there's also recipes that's part of your app state. So now I'm asking,
Um,
does the recipes, this recipes over here, does this matter when you check whether a recipe is cookable?
so okay, so you're saying the way you're initiating the recipe, right? Like this is
I'm not initiating a recipe. I'm calling your check with the recipe that has an instance equal to this.
right, and then okay, I see. So like, is this okay? So you're saying check of recipe equals that with a let's see. So I'm here. Game would be okay. So if I do inventory equals okay, so I think
Mm-hmm.
okay, so sorry, let me think this through. So you're asking like what does this current inventory look like in terms of the state?
Yeah, maybe this is a bit confusing using the mock inputs. We can make real inputs if you feel like it's faster. So you initiate an app.
Sure.
Can you pass in a real inventory and real recipe here? Real recipes list?
Sure.
You can say inventories.
So
For example, inventory equals make that, and then just pass these two in. Okay, and then you can say we don't need this anymore. This is real, and you can tell me in this case should this return true or false.
okay, so and then you can do okay, so within each recipe, okay, how am I handling that right now? So within each of these recipes, and I'm going here. So yeah, so like way I'm thinking, so right now the self-dot recipes class, um, this is a dictionary, so inside might be like what you said here, so like pasta
Okay.
with here's a list maybe of like noodles and then one and then sauce of one like this
Okay.
and then maybe another air I guess say like you have another a recipe of like meatloaf of and then here you have meat one and let's say like sauce of one. Um, that's how I'm envisioning this recipes
Okay. That makes sense to
to
me.
look.
Yep.
So and then our inventory could have been the way yeah, so the inventory right now, self dot inventory. The way I'm envisioning this right now is like you just have a total quantity of everything. So let's say like you have like sauce of 2, and then like meat of 3, like that. Um, that's actually like all I need. I actually, yeah, I didn't think I need to store like, the recipe itself. So then when I pass in like, check
Mm-hmm.
of, let's say like, um, would be like a pasta class, right? So like,
Okay.
say like you go here, you make like pasta is equal to recipe like this, like dot dot dot, and then like if you do check, do I have this? All I'm doing is I'm just looping through the ingredients
Yep.
in this pasta,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm checking inside my inventory if each of the ingredients has enough quantity.
Okay, and so in this case, should it return true or false for your check pasta?
Um, yeah, yeah. So here, like if I do pasta, it would be no, right? Because it doesn't have the noodles. So you actually fail like the first loop
Okay,
because
cool.
yeah. Well, assuming it's in this order, right? Because
And
not
keep, yeah,
guarantee this order in the dictionary, but yeah.
cool. So now what if I say that your recipe is this?
Um, so sauce of okay, so I have sauce of 1. Okay, so inside your recipes class, you're saying okay, to make sauce you need 1 tomato. Um, and then your inventory has 3. Yeah, so you can be able to make the sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now it should output. Well, I guess you still need
You still
noodles,
need
right? Like
noodles.
assuming, like let's say like we have noodles.
Yep.
Um, that's kind of getting into the edge case I was thinking at the beginning. But yeah, let's say you have this. This should like output you true. Um,
Yep.
and what I think we should do in this case, like I feel like there's an order to this, right? Like I'm actually thinking like kind of modeling this as a graph. Like, in order to make, like in this case, my logic would be like, in order to make the pasta, I have to, sorry, in order to make the sauce, I have to first have tomato, right? And after that's done, then I'll need that to make pasta. So it's kind of a like a directed relationship, right? So like from one to the other. So, um, kind of have to model it in like a, I guess like a topological sorting kind of area. So like, since some ingredients rely on others which have to be made first,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, kind of thinking of like modeling this in a graph for the relationship where like one depends on the other.
Yeah, that is true. That's
Does
one way to
that
do it.
make sense? That's
Yeah, that makes sense.
sorry. Yeah. So what I'm thinking is um, I'll probably model like, let me just maybe try to see this. Okay, so like this one, like say like tomato, um, everything like that's incoming would be like the ingredients necessary to make, sorry, it would be sauce in this case. Um, so like for example, if sauce needs like tomato, let me just do this. So if it needs like tomato, it needs sugar, all these things or like salt, all of these things will be like the incoming edges of the sauce.
But they
And
already
in
are incoming
order,
edges of
I
sauce.
actually, sorry?
I agree with what you're saying, but I'm suggesting right now
Yeah.
that it is already modeled this way.
Is it already modeled this way?
Yeah, for example,
So let's
if I
see.
give you if you're like you fill in your check, right? If I say, so your recipe, where's your recipe? Recipe that name. So this name here would be equal to sauce, right? This name over here. Um, you can just do self.recipes.contains name. That's already your edge.
Um, so yeah, but I guess you'll have to add it, right? So because right
Add
now I
add
won't
what?
have like I don't have sauce right now, but since I have
Sauce is over
tomato,
here.
um, sorry, let me check this. So self dot if we were to check self dot sauce here has one tomato. Right, so yeah, okay, so this would pass that check. Yeah, actually no, this should work the way it's done. So if I get here, it'll check for the sauce and it'll realize that I have enough tomatoes, right, inside my inventory. Yeah, so I think this is like you said, it's already implemented in the current functionality. Because I can like let me just I guess run through it just so that I'm
Yep.
clear as well. So right now, let's say we're trying to check for the same thing, right? We're checking for pasta. So the way to check that is if we have, so we need noodles, which we have. So you would have passed this test. Um, like let's say, okay, sorry. Right now I'm saying like if we don't have this, is kind of where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So say if we don't have this, it's gonna fail the sauce class. Yeah, sorry, this is kind of where I'm getting at. So if it technically doesn't have this, but say you have sauce of one, which is not here, it would fail right now. But since I have tomatoes, I'm able to make the sauce, which then I should be able to, have the functionality to say like sauce of three, right? Since I have three tomatoes to do that. Um, so this should actually be true versus like right now it doesn't have that functionality. Yeah, so that's kind of where I was getting at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I would caution against modifying your actual inventory during the check method.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily a bad thing. Just be aware that that might have side effects.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's kind of where I was getting at about the topological sorting. Like I think I can't just it's not as simple as just doing this. I might have to do some kind of topological sorting to like maybe include um, some, or I can maybe do it like when I need some kind of way such that like when I have something that's kind of like for example in this case I should be able to add the sauce here in some of the steps so that by the time I'm doing this check I'm able to output the correct output
Okay,
for that.
you said topo sort a couple times now. Can you clarify the purpose of topo sort here and if we actually need it?
So the way I'm kind of thinking is like, for example, like if I have a pasta, it requires these two ingredients right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like only when I have like no ingredients left, like in a top sort would be like the in degree, like the incoming degree is equal to zero, then like I can make that recipe. That's kind of how I'm interpreting. Um, like right now, if we just go through this inventory, the incoming degree is like you start off with two, but since you don't have sauce, you won't get to zero after this check, which will fail right now. So that's what I mean by like I'm kind of viewing like the incoming nodes as like sort of the ingredients of these recipes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, there's a lot of work being done for Toposort here. Can we do this without Toposort or not without Toposort, but the system you have right now, where you're using
Mhm.
the check method? Can you use the check method recursively?
Sure.
I'm
So
not saying you
let
have
me
to right now.
think about that.
I'm just saying we don't need to implement Toposort here. We have
Yeah,
all the tools we
yeah.
need to solve this recursive case of the pasta.
Sure. Let's let me so like here when I get to the name, I'll say like if
And for the
name
sake of
not.
time, we can do pseudocode
Yeah.
here, or you can just talk me through what you would change.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm just saying like here like before we just fail right away
Uh huh.
if um because before it would have been like if name is not in self dot inventory, right? You would have
Yeah.
just failed here. But here we can actually like call this check function on this name,
Uh huh.
and then if it if it passes, then we could go on with the rest of the checks like that.
Okay.
So this can recursively check
That make
in that sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. In the recursive call, are there any considerations that need to be made for the inventory?
So probably have to like you're saying. Okay, let me try and think of an example as to what you mean. So, um, when I do this check, there might be, I'm thinking like there might be some ingredient that maybe have used up before, that like that's no longer available, right? So that kind of needs to be tracked. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, in other words,
Um,
in other words, the case is this. If we need tomato here, this is the case. And then so we're saying so sauce requires one tomato. The sauce requires one tomato. The pasta requires one tomato. We only have one tomato. In this
mhm.
case, you would need to modify the inventory as you go recursively, right?
Yeah. So like when yeah, exactly. So like when I do the recursive call, like if it returns true, I'll actually need to add. I'll have to modify it like here. Like after the check, if the check comes back as true, this is where I'll have to add in that ingredient so that when I get to the next set, it'll like yeah, basically the inventory will get updated
Yeah.
such that like it is able to allow me to check for the next.
Yep, that's right. In other words, you're currently counting on check to read the correct state from the inventory. In other words, your check requires that the inventory is always correct at every point in time in state.
That's right. Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
cool. Um, I'll since we're a bit out of time, I'll ask one follow up, which is, what if we require this check to be faster? Like in this case, we're saying we can you said check an ingredient. But what if I tell you
Mm-hmm.
that on average, a check takes let's say it takes 1 second to run. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what this means is that every leaf of your recipe will be blocking for 1 second before it can return back up and then check the next leaf. And you
Mm-hmm.
currently cannot run this in parallel because you cannot run two leaves at the same time since they both require the inventory to be correct, and depending on which leaf you're in, the inventory can be different. Right? In other words, the
Okay.
inventory cannot be correct for more than one state at a time.
Okay.
How, is there any way to modify this check method to work such that you can run leaves in parallel?
Um, so that we can run leaves in parallel. Um, I guess what I was thinking is like maybe like storing like the different states. Like for example, like at this stage,
Okay.
it might be this type of condition so that like for further calls, if it's like a repeated call, I already have um a state like cached in a way. So like
Mm-hmm.
something like using like memorization or something like that.
And which
So
field would you
that way
memorize?
probably like I'll probably take in like the name of that, like say like, oh here you're checking um let's say like check of yeah sub leaf or something. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so like when I get to this stage,
Yep.
what was the output already? So that I don't have to go further down. I can just tell you the result.
Okay. Okay, and then let me think. Oh, 6 minutes. That's tight. Can I ask this? I'll ask a quick one. Oh, that's not a quick one. No, I think let's. Oh man, that's hard. Okay, let's pause here for today. Let's pause here for now. Um, I don't want to get too much in the weeds about these kind of questions because it is a graph problem, right? Okay, let's pause here. Um, thanks for participating. It's a good showing today because a lot of the difficulty in this question is in the modeling aspect, right? The object oriented part. At the end, like, we were getting to the implementation part. That's not the focus. I know you're strong on that one. That's fine. Um,
Mm.
let's do a bit of feedback. We got about 5 minutes here. Um, I'll say at the beginning, I was quite impressed. You actually one of the second question you asked was if recursive recipes were allowed, and I think you
Yeah.
forgot that by the time you're implementing check. So I think that might be something which you probably should have written down as one of your notes. Because if you ask a question and it's a good question, you feel, right, that's probably worth just writing down. Um, one thing I'll say, just high level wise about these OOD, OOP kind of interviews is clarify ahead of time what level of implementation they're looking for, right? So, for example, you
Got
can
it.
ask, are we doing pseudocode? Are we doing proper Python? Am I allowed to write comments to assume behavior, etc.? Right? So these are things that you should ask before you start implementing because if they allow you to skip a lot of the minutia like constructors, which just really do not matter, if they allow you to skip
Yeah.
that, you save a lot of time, right? So that's something you should just kind of
Gotcha.
clarify ahead of
Gotcha.
time. That's a pretty good tip because the truth is once you start writing this stuff, the interviewer doesn't really want to stop you. So, like I will stop you because I don't want to sit here watch you write constructors, but some people will say,
Yeah.
oh, that's an issue and that's a problem on you because you didn't clarify what the expectation is. Okay, so that's something which you need
Gotcha.
to clarify about. Another
Okay.
thing
Okay.
in general is when you're talking about OOD questions, some things aren't off the limits, but are really something you should be careful about. Number one thing are static methods and static classes. Static methods aren't too bad. Static fields. Static fields are a bit suspicious, and the reason is because, and it's not like the biggest issue, but it signifies that you don't have much experience in this regard. And the reason is because you can really ruin your the static reliance here by asking, what if two people have different recipe books, right? Then you would have to rewrite most of this because you're
Right.
assuming
Right.
that there's one global inventory, there's one global recipe. But the setup of the problem is that you are a user of a recipe app, right? And people have different inventories, people have different recipe books. Right? I didn't say that explicitly, but that's something which you should clarify. Or especially in this case, you don't actually need recipes to be global, right? Like
Right.
that's not something you need. In fact, you don't need a
Right.
recipe to know about all the other recipes in the first place, right? You can just have
That's right.
that in
That's
the application if you need. The application, that layer needs to know the set of recipes and the set of ingredients in their fridge, right? So the
yeah. Yeah.
layering
Yeah.
here, that was off, right? So that was off. So know about that. The tip here is if you're writing a static variable, you probably did something wrong. You probably did. Okay.
I
So
see.
just
I
be
see.
aware of that.
Okay. Mhm.
Blah blah blah. What's going on here? Yada yada. Okay, one thing. This is more a communication thing. Uh, when you're doing the algorithm, you got a bit stuck on one of the parts there. I'm not gonna say too much about that. In the class implementation as well, um, if you find yourself getting stuck, one thing is the communication. One thing is the communication aspect, and the note there I will say is that you should back up and just clarify. Okay, what is my goal? I am trying to make recipe know about the other recipes. Say that, write a comment, and then start implementing. Because otherwise, it's
Got it.
very, very unclear what the candidate is trying to do, right? So that is one thing which you got to be careful about. And I think one thing that's a bit compounding perhaps is the fact that until you have a goal written down or you have made significant progress, it's not really possible for an interviewer to help you, right? For example, when you're writing the ingredient class, it has a name and a quantity, which is fine, right? But if you think about it, the quantity field is a bit overloaded because in a recipe, the quantity specifies the amount you need to make the recipe, but in the
Mhm.
inventory, the quantity represents the quantity of the ingredient in the inventory. So that one field is doing double duty there. So when I'm seeing you going through doing adding the quantities elsewhere, I'm like, oh, which one? Like, are you clear on which one you're doing? I'm not
Yeah. Yeah.
sure. Where does So that's something we should be just be aware of. Well, one thing is
Mhm.
variable names. One thing is being clear about what your current goal is.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
And the last thing I'll say just about the follow-up question, so about something like this is, it's good that you recognize that this is at the end this was a graph problem. Be aware that half the time when you're using a dictionary, it's already modeling a graph, right? Like
Right,
especially
right.
when you have the keys as the IDs, like the name ID in this case, right?
Mhm.
Those that's already a graph, like that's an edge, right? So just be aware of the fact that when you go back and forth, left and right, whatever you are, don't jump into say Toposport is correct, by the way, like that is a correct intuition, but it isn't correct to say, oh, therefore I need to change something. That's not necessarily the case, right? And in this case,
Yeah.
you can see this question was designed expressly such that the only way you can really progress is if you modeled it as a graph in the first place.
Yeah, yeah.
Just be aware that there are these sort of, I wouldn't say like that's not a hint, but that's a purposeful design of the question.
Okay.
And one last thing I'll say before I let you go is just that the follow up question I asked, this is a very common follow up question for I would call, it's hard to put a name on these. It's a common follow up question. The question format is this: you have a task that takes a long time to run. It's an expensive compute task. Okay, and
Mhm.
the issue right now is that you cannot parallelize the compute task because they rely on a shared state. Okay, the solution is to not share the state. Pass in a recipe to the check function. Oh, sorry,
Got it. Okay.
not recipe. Right, and
I
whatever
see.
type here.
I
Okay,
see.
pass
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
in, and well, obviously make it a helper. This is not part of the API. Make it a helper. Make it optional. How do you make something optional in Python? I don't know, right? So
Yeah.
this is how you say, okay, every time you make a subcall, right, copy the current inventory, right? Copy it and then
Okay.
like minus stuff, right? Just like do some compute, doesn't matter, right? So you need to actually be able to copy the inventory such that your sub leaf computations don't share state anymore, right? So this is the common theme for this sort of question is how do you, it's slow because it shares state, don't share the state, copy it, like that.
I see. I see. I
Okay,
see.
there's downsides and upsides. Obviously, this is not a perfect solution. You can go think on yourself what the downsides might be.
Mhm.
Cool.
Cool. Okay. Thank you so much, Leo.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Benny. Everyone, thank you, Benny, for showing up. We're going to be moving on to the next. Yeah. Be sure to copy this one. I'll be deleting this and using the same path for the next guy.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Leo.
Thank you very
All right.
much. Take care. Bye bye. All right. That's a good job, Benny. I will now call the next person who I'm trying to find but can't. Oh, here they are.
Hello?
Hey, man. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going? Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let me send you a CoderPad link. Please
Good.
log in.